Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here in my music studio at my clavichord. As I promised in the I'm Back video, we're gonna explore more different topics here on this channel, and therefore I apologize up front for the terrible lighting here, also maybe a terrible microphone setting. This microphone should be great for voice, I don't know if you see it, but it's not so good for instrument, but it's difficult to find a balance. So you let me know in the comment if everything works, and over time I will try to do my best to develop everything here into a kind of second home studio. The videos that I made over the past couple of years were exclusively recorded in the other studio. I will keep doing that. So that is the studio for tempo related videos and what have you. But as promised, I want to take you through my journey as a musician and also to share the things that I'm doing, practicing, open my book, so to say, to you in order hopefully to inspire you and also to maybe teach you something. And so today we're going to have a look at what is maybe, well, let's say in the process of recording the well-tempered clavier, so book number 2. By the way, if you're watching this video right at the start, there is still a Kickstarter running for that production. I don't have number 1, so book number 1 here, the blue CD, but it's cool. Check it out. You can have your name in that production, in the booklet. There's not really a booklet, but on the CD. So that is something that many people enjoy, and it's only possible during the Kickstarter, so check it out. I'll put a link in the description box, and if you watch this video later, that production will be produced and will be available on our website, because we had a magnificent launch. In less than 8 hours the production actually was financed. So thank you all if you have backed this project. Thank you really from the bottom of my heart. So during that recording process I was working on this piece. Obviously I do have to practice sometimes, and this is a piece that I struggled with. For those of you who don't know how the piece goes, it starts like this. I didn't record it on this instrument, but obviously this instrument works perfect for Bach as well. It's this one. Now we're gonna dive into that. I'm gonna take you to what this music, why is it so weird? All these jumps, what does Bach want to say with that? But especially in this video, and there will be a new series, I want to take you through my journey and your journey. If you play this piece, you play the notes, and there is something that you feel as a performer you need to do, quote unquote. But what is it? What do you do in order to make this music work? To make it, I would say, musical. It's maybe not the right description, but to make the music so that when people listen, not only they find it beautiful, but they understand it. And more often than not, these solutions, so to say, are hidden in front of us. They actually are not so difficult, but I see a lot of people also when I'm teaching struggle with that. Before we start, in order to make these videos possible for me time-wise, I will try to do my best, and it's an exercise to not edit these videos. So that means I will not have overlays with the score. So if you want to follow the score along with me, and that will be also true for the other videos that we are planning to make here, just download it from IMSLP or take it from your shelf. I think many of you watching this right now will have the WTC available, and if not, just download it, because it's amongst the greatest music ever written. Not editing these videos is difficult for me because, as you know, I'm not speaking my mother tongue. I could speak in Dutch, but then I think I can only serve, so to say, a handful of you. So let's not do that. And let's just accept that sometimes I will just mess up or not find my words. But again, I'm not taking this video to my computer to start editing, because that's a lot of work. And if that comes with the price of not making these videos as I did the last couple of years, that is, I think, not worth it. The few times that you have to wait me finding my words. And some people will say like, yeah, but Ben, that's not a problem with you. Well, let's hope it stays like that. So this opening, if you would have practiced the notes, and I can imagine many of you, it will sound like this, and that's perfectly fine. So playing the notes without anything added sounds a little bit like this. And that's absolutely fine, because already you have the notes by Bach. But if you would ask me as a listener, like, do you understand what Bach actually is trying to say here? And my answer would be no. I hear, of course, a piece that I know that sounds like Bach, and in this case is Bach. But as I said at the beginning, or in the title of the video, like this is one of the weirdest pieces that I know written by Bach. And not weird in the sense of like incomprehensible, but if you want to make something out of this, like to make sense, to have the listener say like, okay, I understand what Bach is doing, then I was struggling with this piece. Like, of course, you have to prepare all the other pieces of, I had to prepare them, of course. And you have sometimes to search for like, where are my accents? What is the motive? What do I have to highlight as a musician? All these, it's a menu card that you have to invent just underneath the surface of the notes. But here it was difficult because all these jumps. And then it goes up. And again, suddenly there are 30-second notes. And then. And pop, 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 pop. So he goes from high to low. You know, if you've been following the Beyond the Notes videos, that is of course something that's that's majestic. That's like heaven is opening, if I can say it like that. Like almost God is watching from high above to us on earth. Therefore, Bach goes from high to here. It's very symbolic. But why all the jumps? And moreover, what do you do with them? So if you analyze that, and if you have your score on your screen or in your hand, you can follow with me. So the bass obviously is a long C, and if you play it on an instrument like that, you just repeat it. That's like written in that time, that's not a problem. But anyways, regardless, you could say like, okay, we start with C. That's like an upstep to something. He's going down. And if we leave out the jumps, then we have actually a logical melody. So there is a melody hidden within the motives of the notes. We can do it also in a different way. We can also stick with the upper part. So there are, so to say, two kinds of melodies or motives, or it is a scale, two parallel scales that Bach wants to combine. And that's the difficulty. Because what are you highlighting? Again, if you play it just like flat with no nuance whatsoever, you're not telling your audience like, okay, but where do I need to put my attention to? What is actually important and what is not? And there comes, of course, you as a musician, you have to choose what you're going to do there. You also have to make your fingerings in order to highlight that automatically. But that will be something that I will be talking in future videos. And also, guys, in the future membership, you know that I'm planning to make that like a membership where you can have where you have a lot of pre-recorded courses like this, but more in a systematic way, and fingering will be there a huge part, because that's, if I had to point to one thing that everybody I have been teaching, whether it is beginners, of course you have to learn as a beginner a lot of stuff, but also people that are already in conservatories, and after that is fingerings. You need to make fingerings, because fingerings are preparing your reflections, so to say, of your interpretation. It's not only technical, but that's for another time. So here, what do we highlight? If we highlight, you could also say like, yeah, you played it so flat, just articulate, because in that time you need to articulate, but it won't help us here. And even if you articulate in the same way, it won't help you either. I'm demonstrating that. A part from the fact that this wouldn't make any sense to just project like this. So okay, let's see what would happen. And if you're playing a piano, the same thing as a clavichord. You have the same possibility. I mean, the sound development is different, and we have the possibility to have this vibrato sound, but on the piano you can do the same thing. On a harpsichord you have to work with some other things, but that's also for later. So let's highlight the lowest notes. Let's emphasize, you need parallel scales, let's emphasize the notes below. There you get this. That's interesting. Because now you have like your menu card. You remember, the menu card just below the surface. What do you put in front? Which are your pre-dishes? Which is your main dish? What is your dessert? In other words, what do you want people to see? What do you want people to listen to? And now I focus just on a few notes, and suddenly there is like a hierarchy. You have so how do I do that? You hold the note a little longer, and that's also a trick if you play the harpsichord. You just hold the note longer because there's your expression. You lack on the harpsichord obviously the possibility to make a note louder, but you can make it longer. And on the clavichord or the piano you can do both. And then this is an ornament. And then suddenly we arrive here at the F in a very logical way. When I was practicing this and preparing that for the recording, I was also struggling with the tempo. Because like you kind of have the feeling that this, if you just play it faster, that you overcome all of this, but it's not possible. Bach is using here these 30-second notes, and I don't want to go too technical. We make also tempo-related videos here, but Bach is using 30-second notes. You see those 30-second notes, and many people have the automatic reflex like, okay, but let's play them very fast because they're fast notes. Well, not necessarily. A 30-second note is the double of a 16th note. Why do you write 30-second notes instead of 16th notes? Bach could have gone like one way below, this starting with 8th notes, and then have a 16th note as the fastest note value. Well, it's related to articulation, like very fine articulation. But in fact, the opposite is true. When you have so many 30-second notes as here, your tempo becomes slower. In fact, you could say Bach is writing this piece in an 8/8 bar structure that didn't exist. So there is a limited number of bars, time signatures that people can use and could use. And so you have to interpret that, you have to see that as a musician. Okay, there are a lot of 30-second notes here, and even though they're not predominantly, this piece is not predominantly written in 30-second notes, still they influence the possibility of articulation. Like you have to be able to give value to all these notes. So tempo-wise, if you just speed it up, it doesn't work. And so you have to find a way in the differentiation. What would happen if I emphasize the highest notes? That seems not to work so well. And also you have then to emphasize a note which is not on the strong beat. This is a strong beat. So I wouldn't do that. It's a little bit against what you feel as natural. So let's stick with the lowest note. And then you have here, this B flat leads to the A, obviously. So that is the last note of that first bar. It's not on an accentuated beat, even if you count in 8 notes. But let's accentuate that a little bit because it's the upstep to the A. And then something else happens. We leave a little bit the normal structure where we have the strong beats on the expected beats of the bar. And we go for an upbeat to highlight that. And on top of that, let's also breathe a little bit, because we come from high. And then suddenly something else happens. This becomes in connection with, like as if it were a natural continuation without the... Imagine that we would not have these notes in between. That would be like a natural continuation of that broken triad that goes down. Now Bach writes a little bit of an ornament in between, also because he needs to lift the hand. He has to go higher, because otherwise he would end like there and the keyboard is not so long. So let's do that. We emphasize the heavy beats, we make them a little longer. How long? That's something you have to experiment with. And do experiment with that. And it's an idea maybe that I just get. Make a recording of it and put it on a YouTube channel and post it in the comments below. YouTube is like not liking that, but I can go into the back end of YouTube and see if there are any videos of you making these pieces, trying it out, and then you can share it with the community here. So let's try that. Emphasizing the low notes, playing of course the high notes, but the high notes are your dessert. The low notes are your main course. The ornaments is like something that you have in between of a good glass of wine or whatever you like or prefer with your dish. They're not important, but they are important to play in like in a nice way. Otherwise, like of course, a nice way I mean a little bit of articulation and a little bit of attention. So then we get this. That already makes sure that if you listen to this piece, you are following what I want you to follow. It's very different from what we had at the beginning. So music is always about, we say accentuation, but what is an accent? It's a highlight, it's an emphasis. You make it a little bit, instead of gray, you push the slider here to go to black, and this becomes like a little bit more gray or less gray or light gray, so to say. So you have contrast. You add contrast to your picture, and with the photo you do the same thing. A picture has contrast, because otherwise everything is flat. Music is the same thing. You can play it like without contrast. Or you can add. How much, again, that's up to you. What is the character of the piece? How majestic do you want to have it to sound? So now I'm holding back with each and every note, and then the piece becomes like very big. It's like a romantic symphony that you start, and that's maybe too much, but if you, to my taste, but if you like that, by all means, you do it. But that's your menu card. What do you offer to the listener? Do you want to offer this? Then by all means go for it. There's another element, and we're not going to make this video too long, but there is another element. You have accentuation, but sometimes you see that I also withhold a little bit of note. I play it a little longer, for instance at the beginning. Give a jump. I can do this. Or I can prepare it a little bit. You have to be very careful with that, because if you overdo it, you have this. Nobody knows what tempo you're playing. Instead of this, listen to the difference. So I'm doing it in two ways. Flat first, without anything, and then with a little bit of timing. I'll say dum, ya, da, 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 dum. Also, not this. These are nuances, and I would say if you work on a piece like this, go first for these accents. Try to understand, and we try to understand what is actually happening. We were talking about these parallel lines. Which one is the most important one? Well, we have chosen for the one that falls on the natural beats. We were thinking, like, okay, what would happen if we speed up? If we really play in quarter notes, then it would become even more difficult, and we lose also the character. It's what Leopold Mozart said. The most important thing in a piece, if you play a piece as a musician, is to think like, what is the character? What do you want to say? It can be an abstract feeling. It's like it goes into the domain of the Beyond the Notes videos that we made. And here, the option is like, okay, make it big, make it grand, you know. It's like the opening of Bach's book number 2. I mean, that means something, and it goes from here to here. Then we emphasize the strong notes, which is, of course, the most natural thing to do. But then we see that we have actually strong notes on eighth notes. It fits perfectly in the notation. And then we highlight those notes by playing them stronger, playing the other notes a little less strong, and then we can also make them a little longer. Accentuation can be stronger and length. And if you do that, you end with, and after bar 3 with a low F, and then the piece starts, and then it sounds very natural. Still, it's in a good way a weird opening. And then it continues. We're not going to go further than that. This piece is very busy. It's a conversation. It's like you have people that are like waiting to go on stage, and they have everything. They have a lot of things to say. That's what I want to say. And they cannot wait. And here they start babbling to each other, and that person wants to say something, and that person, and this one, and that, and that. It's super difficult as a musician to play this piece in a way that you do not get lost in all these notes, and that a listener sometimes, maybe it's a good thing. You, as a listener, you're a little bit overwhelmed, but still you need to know which voice is which is talking there. So the rest of the piece, it's actually very difficult. It's a really difficult piece. That opening, though, it's a good lesson, I thought, to start this series with. We will have other pieces like the Inventions and some even we go to play Czerny at the piano. I mean, there's a lot of plans that I have, and let me know in the comments what you would like me to talk about. But this is a good piece to show, how do you come from a very flat performance, where you say okay, there's something missing. I'm listening to my favorite musician, and he or she plays it in a way that I think what are they doing? Sometimes it's not so easy for many people to deconstruct that. That's the reason why I took this piece, because you have to go, as I said, a little bit below the surface of the notes, and there is a white canvas that you have to fill in yourself. And then you see, if you start from there, it's not so difficult. Of course, bringing everything in balance, that's experience, that's practice, that will come over the years. But let me know in the comments if you are experimenting with this, if this video inspired you to take that score and go to your piano, clavichord, harpsichord, or whatever instrument you play, or keyboard. And again, if you feel inspired enough to send a recording in the comment box, I will check if YouTube is blocking it. And so don't worry if it's blocking, I check every few days. So check the comments of this video as well if you're interested to hear your colleagues, how to say, here the community share that, and it would be very nice to see that kind of dialogue. Okay, that was it. Don't forget to check out the Kickstarter if you watch this at the beginning. Also, we have a Patreon page. We very much appreciate if you check it out. We also started the podcast. I'm not going to make too many call to actions because you would get lost, but if you haven't noticed that will be also something that's on your path. And last but not least, if you like me to go and make that membership, I'm really serious about that. There is a link in the description box. That's an email list. Just sign up for that. We need a certain number of people that show interest in that, and then I will be more than happy to make that. So with all of that out of the way, thank you for watching. We see each other very soon again. Bye.